Okay, imagine waking up in the dead of night. Your heart is literally pounding in your chest. You're completely out of breath. You've just seen something absolutely terrifying. Someone you love, someone who is very much alive right now, has died in your dream. Maybe it was your mom, your dad, your spouse, or your absolute best friend. And it felt so incredibly real.
You're probably in a cold sweat, right? And immediately, this agonizing question just hits you like a ton of bricks. Does this mean they're actually going to die? Your mind starts racing and the panic is just completely taking over. But before you let that happen, traditional Islamic sources give us a very, very clear answer. No. Seeing a living person die in a dream absolutely does not mean that person is going to die in real life. So before you let fear completely consume your day, just stop, take a deep breath. In this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly what classical Islamic sources actually teach about these disturbing dreams so you can stop stressing and start understanding. We're going to break down the theology, the classical interpretation traditions, and the exact steps you need to take to protect your peace of mind.
All right, Section 1, the boundaries of the unseen. Let's dive right into this. We absolutely have to start with the most foundational theological rule here. Predicting death is simply impossible for human beings. No dream, no matter how vivid, no matter how emotional it feels, can give you certain knowledge of when another human being is going to pass away.
What's really fascinating is just how crystal clear the Quran is on this matter. Surah An-Naml tells us, "Say, none in the heavens and the earth knows the unseen except Allah. The unseen belongs to Allah alone." It's really that simple. A dream cannot somehow bypass this divine boundary to hand you a definitive timeline of someone's life.
And we see this again in another powerful verse from Surah Luqman. No soul knows what it will earn tomorrow, and no soul knows in what land it will die. So jumping to the conclusion that a loved one is going to pass away just because your brain showed you an image while you were sleeping, it's totally unjustified. You have to anchor your anxiety in the undeniable truth that Allah knows best and the time of death is exclusively His knowledge. Which brings us to Section 2, 3 types of dreams. Before we even try to interpret anything, we need the framework established by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in Sahih Muslim. He taught us that dreams don't all come from the same place. We actually experience 3 completely different types of dreams.
Looking at this classical framework, dreams essentially fall into 3 distinct buckets. You've got a good vision from Allah, a distressing dream from Shaitan, which literally just exists to cause you sadness and fear, or it's simply a manifestation of your own subconscious thoughts. Think about it. If you've been deeply worried about a sick parent, or just stressed out about losing someone you cherish, your brain is probably just processing that waking anxiety while you sleep. Or, that terrifying imagery could just be a cheap trick from Shaitan trying to ruin your day.
So, if it's not a literal prophecy, what does it actually mean? Section 3, Decoding Death. Let's look at how classical Islamic dream interpretation literature, like the traditions attributed to scholars such as Ibn Sirin, views the specific symbol of death. And spoiler alert, guys, it is rarely what you think.
This brilliantly illustrates the massive gap between our modern panic and traditional wisdom. On one side, we have your absolute worst fear, literal, physical death. But on the other side, we have the traditional symbolic meanings. In classical interpretation, death often just represents a major change in someone's condition, maybe a physical or emotional separation, or honestly, just the ending of a specific phase in life. It's like turning the page of a chapter, not the end of the book.
This right here is exactly why you can't just Google death dream and expect a real answer. A responsible interpreter looks at all the tiny variables. Who actually died? Was there crying? Was it a peaceful passing? Did you actually speak to them? What was your own emotional state? Every single one of these details can completely change what the dream traditionally means.
Let's apply this to something highly emotional. What if it was your mom or your dad? Parents hold such an incredibly important place in our hearts, so dreaming of their death is uniquely terrifying, for sure. But take a breath. This usually just reflects your deep attachment to them, a natural fear of loss, or maybe shifting dynamics in your relationship as they age. So instead of panicking, use this as a nudge to honor them. Speak kindly to them today and make sincere dua for their health.
Okay, what if you saw your husband or wife die? Again, I repeat, do not take this as a guaranteed prediction. In traditional interpretation, this often symbolizes a phase of life ending, a change in circumstances, or it might just be your own subconscious worries bubbling to the surface, especially if you guys have been having a rough patch. Please don't make drastic marital decisions based on a dream, and definitely don't traumatize your spouse over breakfast by telling them their death is imminent.
You know, the overall vibe or atmosphere of the dream is a huge deal too. Traditional interpretations draw a massive line between a chaotic dream full of loud screaming and wailing versus a dream where someone passes away quietly and peacefully. A frantic, terrifying dream full of loud crying, that's almost always just a distressing trick from Shaitan. A peaceful dream, however, has entirely different symbolic implications in classical literature.
So the crucial point is, how should you actually react when you wake up in full panic mode? Let's hit section 4, Sunnah for bad dreams, because you don't have to just lie there feeling completely helpless.
We actually have a very clear, practical action plan straight from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in Sahih Al-Bukhari for exactly this moment. Step 1. Seek refuge in Allah from the evil of the dream and from Shaitan. Step 2. Spit lightly to your left 3 times. And step 3, and this is a big one, guys, do not tell people about the disturbing dream. According to the narration, if you follow these exact steps, the dream simply will not harm you.
I cannot stress that last point enough. Do not spread this frightening dream around. Seriously, don't text the family group chat at 3 a.m. in a panic. All that does is spread totally unnecessary anxiety and treats a random trick of the mind like it's a literal prophecy. Instead, just place your absolute trust in Allah. Let it go and rely entirely on His protection.
All right, let's move to our final and, honestly, most profound point. Section 5, the ultimate spiritual lesson. Because beyond the symbols and the initial panic, what's the real takeaway here? We need to shift our focus away from anxiety about a future we cannot control and move toward a deep spiritual reflection on something we are all absolutely going to face, our own inevitable return to our Creator.
The Quran tells us plainly in Surah Al-Imran, every soul will taste death. It's a heavy truth. Even when a dream isn't a prediction, the sheer imagery of death is an incredibly powerful reminder. This worldly life, it's temporary. We are all going to return to Allah. So instead of obsessing over who is going to die and when, a dream like this should really just serve as a massive wake-up call for our own souls.
Use that emotional jolt as a catalyst to do better. Ask yourself the tough questions. Have I been praying? Have I sincerely repented? Am I actually treating my parents well and keeping up with my family ties? Have I asked Allah for forgiveness lately? Turn that momentary fear into a lasting motivation to step up your game when it comes to your religious and family obligations. Now, I know we've covered a ton of general principles today, but context is everything, right? If you're still feeling unsettled and really want your specific dream examined, you can get a personalized interpretation by a qualified sheikh based on traditional Islamic literature. Just check the description of this explainer. We've linked a WhatsApp number there where you can send the full details of your dream to get a properly tailored understanding. But I want to leave you with this one final provocative thought. When the panic totally fades and your heart rate goes back to normal, the most important question isn't who is going to die. The real, ultimate question you should be asking yourself is, am I ready to meet Allah? Let that question guide your actions today. Remember, only Allah holds the keys to the unseen, and ultimately, Allah knows best.